He highlights the fun frustrations of Revolution Radio on air, as she details our beautiful and informative website, provides you with tidbits of station history and trivia, and conducts in-depth interviews of your favorite internet talk radio host on freedomslips.com. Learn about the person behind the show and what makes them passionate about the topics they bring to the airwaves. With more than 60 hosts, we will have a different radio personality to feature each week. Be sure and listen in and discover what makes Revolution Radio tick, 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 tick. You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com.
Revolution Radio. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hi everybody, welcome to Solutions Network with Gail, Marie, and Nicole, back for another Sunday evening. How are you doing, Nicole?
Hi, I'm doing great. I was just trying to get all set up for the live stream, as usual. Still learning.
Welcome this week. We're still sort of figuring out how to best do the show, right? So this week we're going to focus on a couple of topics, touch base a little bit on the Moncton shootings. There's been some interesting articles written in the Huffington Post that I think we'll talk about a little bit, and talk about the job work program, or the foreign worker program. And then we'll see where the conversation goes from there. Please, if you have any questions, we're watching the chat room. Feel free to share with us. And before we get started, Nicole, anything interesting this week that you want to cover?
Well, there's always lots of interesting stuff. We never know one day to the next what's going to happen.
True.
But like one of the reasons why I want to work talk about the foreign workers program is again because of globalization and how they're coming out with new strategies to kind of pacify one area and swing everything underneath another avenue where everybody's blindsided. So this is where we're going to be looking at, what came out of the foreign workers programs and why all of a sudden the government is saying, oh, now we're going to make it better and we're going to make sure that Canadians get the jobs first, and how they're going to go about it. So that would be a little...
Okay, well, why don't we start there then, since you've already brought it up. What exactly is it for people that are not familiar with it?
Well, the foreign workers program, what's happening now is a lot of people in Canada are losing their jobs and to foreign workers. And you had a group, the first time that I noticed it was in regards to RBC, that the Royal Bank of Canada was actually letting go of their staff. But before they let them go, they're giving them a severance package and getting them to train foreign workers to come and replace their jobs at lower salaries. And then we had an instance where 270 men out in the West Coast were let go in exchange for foreign workers. And these were all trade professionals. So, these people have mortgages, they have debts to pay, children to raise, and, pension plans that they want to keep. But now that all goes by the wayside. So it's important that everybody knows what they're getting into and what might be coming up on the horizons.
Right. Now, back a couple of years back, wasn't, Bell Canada did a lot of layoffs and, sort of paying off for retirement. And I think maybe other telecommunications corporations did. And then we found that If you phone to places like Rogers or, even the airport, um, you end up speaking with people from other countries. Is that sort of related, do you think, in some way?
Oh, well, the thing is they were, I think so, in the sense that the corporations, if they don't, what they promise their investors is that they'll do everything in their power to make sure that your investment prospers, I should say, and going overseas for telecommunications and all that. Like, I mean, one time I was 4 hours on the phone for my internet, and it was a gentleman in India, and it was just ridiculous. First of all, I could barely understand him, and he couldn't understand me. So I spent 4 hours of my time trying to figure out this modem for my internet, and it was just horrific. It was the
It's really
worst.
frustrating.
Yeah, it was the worst experience I've ever had as far as customer service goes.
Yeah.
Uh, but that this is what they'll do to get the cheap labor. Uh,
Well, and I think it's important that we point these because people can relate to this. And even if it's not directly related to this program that they're creating now, it's all along the same lines, right? Take the jobs from Canadians and give them to, um, in this case, other countries because they have to pay less. So it's like everything that and I saw somebody made a comment in Facebook earlier this week, so grateful that we live in a country that's so secure and so abundant and so free. And I said to them, well, you know what? Everything that we benefit from here, somebody's paying for that. You know what I mean? Like it's not about these people shouldn't have the opportunity to work and make the pennies in the other country, but like their life is not that much better just making the few cents, so there may be some improvement in their life, but they're also in a country where there's a lot of issues, and that's what's being created here for the most part. When somebody can't pay their bills, can't pay for their most basic needs because the jobs are being farmed out, or in some cases they're bringing people in from other countries to work in it. And I just think it's really important that when we're talking about things that we have, that people be able to relate to it because it is affecting you, whether you recognize it or not.
yeah, exactly. I mean, in one way or another, it will affect everyone, and this is what people don't realize. And because as soon as you're working for lower jobs, it's going to affect somebody else because they're going to expect everybody else to work for less pay and to put in more hours, or your quotas are going to increase, and then you're going to be pushed to the limit. So when does it stop, right? I mean, it's almost like they expect every human being to be a machine, and
Yeah.
again, it's for how much, in regards to profits. So now, with globalization coming in, um, like I received an email today, and there was an ad on Global News, and what I'll do is I'm going to post it on. I'm going to try and be creative here, so I'm going to try and post it on the live stream, and we'll be able to kind of see where they were heading at with this. But anyways, I'm gonna have to try and see here which page it is. Okay, I'm just gonna go back here. Okay, so what they're doing is they're coming at the foreign workers programs, and trying to fix it so that they can kind of cover up everything that they did, and why these, the Canadian citizens are upset over the foreign workers programs. So now they're kind of stepping back and trying to pacify the people and saying, well, now we're going to be able to fix it and make sure that all the Canadians are first on the list, and it'll be for, like here it says, jobless rate will govern use of low wage temporary foreign workers program. So it'll all depend, the restaurants and the service um, companies will have to follow guidelines and see how many people they've rejected, or um, what was the percentage of people trying to apply for that same job. And then they're going to have a quota. So right now they're going to be allowed to only have 10% of foreign workers in their establishments, but they're going to give them like 3 years to be able to bring that down to 10%, because a lot of them have a higher rate of foreign workers. Some of them are all foreign workers. So
Yeah. And I mean, my question to that is, when was the last time that they really did anything efficiently? In the sense that, oh, you have these quotas now. Oh, you're going to monitor this. Oh, you're going to ensure this. Really? They've never sort of been efficient in anything that they're doing, and I don't know why we would assume that now they will be.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. What did you say about what they were doing to the people? I can't remember the word that you used. But that's exactly what they're, oh, we've upset them, let's tell them this, and we'll still do this, but we'll tell them we're doing this. Because there's nothing that, they're not transparent, they're not honest. They tell you what you want to hear. It's like the politicians, that's what they are, that's what they do.
Yeah, guaranteed. It's like a double speak again. Oh, we're going to do this, and you're going to love it, and we're fair to Canadians, and
Are you there, Stigo?
but then they'll just hide it under another program, so that you don't see it coming.
Did I lose Nicole? Are you here?
Oh yeah, I'm here. Sorry about that.
Sorry. Dead air.
Yeah, no kidding. What I was trying to say is that I'm trying to remember where you lost me.
I was saying that they don't efficiently take care of anything or look after programs, and that they're saying things that the people want to hear, because that's what politicians do, whether they're elected or trying to get elected. It's the same old story.
Yeah, exactly. So, like when you're looking at the temporary foreign workers program, you can see, if unless you know about what's happening in Manitoba with immigration. Manitoba is offering immigrants to come to work or invest in Manitoba, either or. And if you do that, then you'll be a citizen in 6 months' time. So when they're saying that they're going to cap the temporary foreign workers for the employers, and they're going to charge them, like, let's say $1,000 per application, like again, it's a money making thing for them. And at the same time, now these people will be able to come into the country under a foreign workers program, and then within 6 months they're citizens. So now they're no longer a foreign worker.
That's right.
So they're going to hide that under immigration, and you can see it unfolding before your eyes when you know all of these things. So between globalization, the assimilation of everybody worldwide under these so-called programs, and work abroad visas and everything, and all of their new contracts that they've created between all of these countries, let's say under the TPP and FIPA and all of these, bringing in foreign work, the incorporated companies will now be able to bring in their foreign workers. So, and they won't be classified as foreign workers because they're under the company. But if they want to live here, then 6 months they'll be made a citizen in, like with Manitoba. So we'd have to kind of check to see which provinces are all doing the same thing and offering the same 6 month permanent resident status.
Yeah. Well, and this is something to be aware of, is because what they seem to be doing, and this is just my uneducated assessment, is they compartmentalize. They create these new opportunities, or new rules, new processes, new procedures in various, like you said, the immigration is one. The whole job thing, it would be under, employment. So it seems like it's different, yet they're connected. But it's when it's being shared with the Canadian people, it's very compartmentalized in that this is what's happening in Manitoba, and they don't connect for you. The government doesn't connect, and the media are not connecting that for you. So you have to be really like on top of things.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess that's why we're here, to try and share our information. Because if this is happening here, it's happening in every other country. So I'm going to go ahead, and now that I know how to use this thing, when we're playing a video online during our radio shows, I need to mute my mic so that we don't get feedback or doesn't lose the quality. So now, right now, we were looking at the live streaming. We can actually see the minister getting ready to make a speech, and this was taken on global news. And so we'll show you. We'll let it play so that you'll get about. It's only a 5-minute video, so I'm going to click play, and people will be able to watch it through live stream. So and then I'm going to mute myself off. And Gail, if I forget to unmute after, please let me know.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to go. We're getting a commercial right now, so just bear with us.
Really delighted to be here to announce important, fundamental, and comprehensive reforms to Canada's Temporary Foreign Worker Program. We are overhauling the program today to ensure that we put Canadians first, that the Temporary Foreign Worker Program is only used as a last and limited resort. Now, we are going to provide better, clearer, more accurate, and timely information on both streams in the future. This is actually a suggestion that's come from the opposition parties, that we have regular reporting of the number of approvals given to employers to bring people into the Temporary Foreign Worker Program. We will be proactively publishing
we're just holding on
employers who have attained positive
to hear a taped conversation.
And finally, as a sign of our
okay, Gail, you weren't able to hear that?
We're adding. Really delighted to be here.
When you were muted, I couldn't hear it.
Okay, so I'm going to restart it.
And comprehensive reforms to Canada's Temporary Foreign Worker Program. We're overhauling the program today to ensure that we put Canadians first, that the Temporary Foreign Worker Program is only used as a last and limited resort. Now, we are going to provide better, clearer, more accurate, and timely information on both streams in the future. This is actually a suggestion that's come from the opposition parties, that we have regular reporting of the number of approvals given to employers to bring people into the Temporary Foreign Worker Program. We will be proactively publishing the names of employers who have attained positive approvals on a quarterly basis. And finally, as a sign of our transparency, we're adding to the overall reporting of numbers categories of foreign nationals on work permits like foreign students who previously were not clearly reported. So now people can really see how many foreign nationals have authorization to work in Canada. They can sort out which ministry is responsible. Journalists know which department to call. Parliamentarians know which minister to ask questions to. This will enhance accountability. The three key pillars of our reforms are limiting access to the Temporary Foreign Worker Program to ensure that Canadians are first in line, to provide more and better labour market information for stronger screening, and to impose stronger enforcement and tougher penalties. Let me go through each of those pillars. First of all, we will be replacing the old labour market opinion with a new and much more rigorous labour market impact assessment that will ask more questions. For example, we will now be demanding that employers tell us how many people applied for a job, how many Canadians applied for a job, how many came in and were interviewed, and if they were not hired, we want the employers to indicate to us why. We will also be matching that information up with local information on employment insurance claims to ask employers, if you claim no one applied, what about the folks who have done work in that sector in your community who are now receiving EI? And this new information will also be complemented by the new and more robust labor market information we'll be getting, so we'll have better information on what wage rates are and real labor supply and scarcity in a particular region. Secondly, we will be imposing a cap on the percentage of low-paid temporary foreign workers who can work in a particular work site. The cap will be 10%, although we will allow employers who are above that percentage a period of time between now and July 1st, 2016 to move gradually down to 10%. So for the next year, employers who are above 30% of their worksite being TFWs won't be able to apply for labor market impact assessments. Next year, the cap will be 20%, and then we'll reach an overall cap of 10%. This is for jobs which are paid less than the prevailing than the median provincial or territorial average. In addition, we, as of today, will no longer receive applications from employers to fill low-skilled, low-paid positions in the non-tradable services sector, like the food, accommodations, and retail businesses, in regions with unemployment of above 6%. We quite frankly think it is unjustifiable for employers in towns with 14% double-digit unemployment, for example, to bring people in to do food counter attendee work. So this is what I call the belt and suspenders approach. On the one hand, much tighter screening, caps in general for low-paid workers, but no low-paid workers in the non-tradable service sector in regions of high unemployment. We'll also be eliminating aspects of the federal-provincial annex agreements on temporary foreign workers to eliminate some exemptions that have been abused, and Chris will say more about that. And let me make a very clear point about this. Employers have said to us, all the industry groups have said to us, you've got to crack down on the bad apples. You have to go after the bad actors in this program, more oversight, auditing, enforcement, etc. And everyone has agreed we need better labor market information. Well, guess what? This stuff costs money. Millions of dollars of new resources of additional staff. And we think that the businesses who benefit from this program should cover all of those additional costs, not Canadian taxpayers. That's why we are imposing this $1,000 cost recovery fee. It is still relatively modest compared to analogous fees in some other countries, but we hope it will also have some degree of dissuasive effect on employers from using the program. We'll also be imposing a privilege fee of $100. That is more like a special fee whose revenues will go to funding additional government training programs. Details will follow, but I anticipate that we'll be using that revenue to, for example, increase the funds available for the Canada Job Grant.
So that was it.
Wow. And you know what? I didn't even hear that before. And as soon as he started talking, I'm like, wow, how did I know that? You know, all those things he was going to say, how did I know that?
So, you know, it's kind of disheartening, but at the same time liberating to know that we can see through what they're doing. Because it sounds so good, right? You know, jobless rate will govern use of low-wage temporary foreign worker program. You know, like employers in places with high unemployment won't be allowed to apply for temporary foreign workers in the lowest wage and skill groups in the accommodation, food, service, and retail sectors. So, you know, and they're saying, okay, well, a cap is also being placed under the number of low-wage temporary foreign workers an employer can hire at each work site, which is, like right now, they'll say 30% of our work site's employees starting immediately will be dropping to 30% by July of 2016. So how is that going to make all those people who lost their jobs, temporary foreign workers, happy? That doesn't give them their jobs back. You know?
Oh, well, yeah. But you know what? It's almost like this, I don't even know if this is a word, incrementalization, where they have you focused on the program, because the program's not going away. Like, you know what I mean? Like, ultimately what you want is to get rid of it, but they're not getting rid of it. So they keep the focus on changing it, and they build it up so they can remove things from it to make people happy, right? It's the same thing with like the GMO labeling that was happening. It's kind of like, well, no, if GMOs are not good for people, get rid of them. Why are we settling for labeling? No, get rid of them. But see, that's not an option, and it gets people so focused then on the labeling because they think it's something that they have control over. And it's the same kind of thing with this. Like the people that are losing their jobs are being, oh well, you know, that's just how it is. Yet all the focus is on changing the program to make it so people will be more accepting of it.
Yeah, you know, there's always, if they're doing something good, go and see what they're doing elsewhere, because
Well, absolutely. And it's the same with these corporations. Anytime they're offering you a benefit, you can be assured that they're getting as good, if not better, benefit from whatever they're offering you. You may not understand it, but they are benefiting from whatever quote unquote benefits they give to you.
yeah, exactly. So, you know, like here, how are we supposed to feel good about this? Like, employers who are currently under the cap will not be allowed to hire more temporary foreign workers in order to reach the limit. And then it goes on, the article goes on to say, misplaced blame on migrants and temporary foreign worker controversy. And no, like, we can't blame these people for migrating here because they're being offered, you know, something better than what they have at home. But again, like we've said before, it's, you know, their acceptance of a low wage is forcing everybody into acceptance of a low wage. So, you know, here it says, work, okay, the time will not apply to employers with fewer than 10 work. Okay, this will not apply to employers with fewer than 10 workers or to short-term, non-renewable positions. So, employers will also be required to reapply every year for approval of hire low-wage temporary foreign workers. So instead of every 2 years, the fee to apply for a so-called labor market impact assessment, which is what they're going to need now, is being increased to $1,000 from $275. So, you know, it's almost like they wanted everybody to complain about the foreign workers so that they can increase the fees. You know, and this is, they've increased it by 75% increase. So, you know, and it goes to say, old measures are bold, broad, ambitions, and balance. Our measures are bold, broad, ambition, and balance. And this was from Employment Minister Jason Kenney, who said, you know, when he announced the changes. Now he says, our government has been clear that Canadians must be first in line for available jobs. These comprehensive and balanced reforms restore the temporary foreign worker program to its original purpose, as a last and limited resource for employers when there are no qualified Canadians to fill available jobs. You know, like, not everybody wants to go and work at McDonald's or these places. But if people had, you know, the minimum wage was a lot higher and food and the cost of living capped, you might have a lot of Canadians who are okay with working at Tim Hortons or McDonald's or these places. You know, but right now, like, as far as Canadians are concerned, you know, some of them have their rent and mortgages to pay, so they have to hold out for those higher paying jobs.
Yeah. Well, and it's all part of the system and how it's designed, right? There's absolutely nothing wrong with if whatever job somebody wants to do, or even if they have to do it just to sort of make a living. I don't like the whole idea of a hierarchy of, this is a more respectable job than that sort of thing, right? And it just seems to me that um, there's the lower wage jobs, quote unquote. It's not that they're. I mean, if, from some perspective, you know what? You just go, you do your job, you go home. You're not, you're not paid for the stress that you bring home from the higher paying jobs and stuff, and that's cool for some people. But what happens is in these quote unquote lower paying jobs, the people are not treated as well by the employers, by the customers, and are thought of as lower than because they're just whatever, McDonald's worker, or they're just this, or they're just that. And I mean, I think this is from a solutions perspective. As customers, this is something that we can recognize what our part is in how we treat these people that are working in these positions, because you don't know the people that are working there. You don't know what their skill level is, what their education knowledge level is. And why don't we start focusing on employers treating employees better than having to, focus on the whole divide and conquer of Canadians don't want to do this. These people want to do it. They're keen to do it coming in from other countries. And of course, Canadians, they get mad at those people because we always look at the symptoms, and they're simply a symptom rather than the root cause. So let's start looking deeper at what the root cause is. As soon as we start looking for root causes, it takes so much away from the government and these programs that they put into place to try and appease us through their incrementalization. I don't even know if that's a word. Is that a word?
Well, we'll call it a word.
Okay.
We understand. I think most of the listeners will understand what you're getting at.
But I just think that there's, they're creating the whole divide and conquer, and we're jumping in both feet, because those are jobs have a tendency to be treated. The workers have a tendency to be treated poorly because they are low wage, and we've created, or it's by design actually, in this society, we have this hierarchy where wage, or the amount of money you have, defines what kind of person you are, which of course there's nothing further from the truth, but that's the way that we've been designed, and the society's been designed, and we've been programmed to believe.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, the thing is, uh, we've been programmed for so long, and it's hard to undo that programming. And with the nations, they call it well, not just the nations, but you call that kind of the colonial way of thinking and doing things. And we got to kind of decolonize our minds out of that to be able to um, move on, because as long as we're thinking in the same lines as how could I say, as long as we're thinking in the same colonial way, that, oh yeah, well, this is normal, this is okay, um, the foreign workers, or even us working into lower paying jobs, it's like our mentality is set to the point where, well, at least you've got a job. Again, that's the colonial way. At least you've got a job.
Yeah.
Well, your job depends on what you're doing, and because anything could be a job. Stay-at-home mom is a job. Cleaning homes is a job. So, even though that a lot of the Canadian citizens don't want to do these low-paying jobs, it's still not an excuse for them to come in and say, well, now, they're even blaming the companies for these um, for abusing the foreign workers. So the government is not even pointing the finger at them because it's their legislature that allowed all this to happen.
Exactly. And that's part of my point is that, they've got, they're blaming the corporations, Canadians are blaming the immigrants. The finger never points in the direction that it should be pointing in.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's because there's so much focus put on the whole symptom of the area, like that there's even a program at all, and there are excuses for the program and how it's tell you all these good things, how transparent we're going to be and how we're going to monitor it and we're going to do all this, and we just keep falling for their words over and over and over again.
Yeah, so this guy Kenny said the changes will significantly reduce the number of temporary foreign workers in Canada and improve labor market information while strengthening enforcement and penalties. So his quote is, "Will severely sanction those who break the rules," he said. So, I mean, okay, so now it's a cash cow for you?
That's what it's all about.
So you're going to penalize the employers. I mean, you can't blame the employers. If you could go and collect, make more of a profit because you're paying somebody $10 an hour instead of 15. I mean, this is what they're teaching everybody to do. And it's like, wow, you're smart. You're making a lot more money. And so the next company will say, well, I want to do that too. So, they fire everybody at $15 an hour or let them go and then rehire people at, maybe $5 to $10 an hour, which should be illegal to begin with because, I mean, we have child labor laws. Well, how about victims of labor laws, because really that's what the foreign workers are, and especially the people who have to work at these menial jobs for minimum wage when the cost of living doesn't even it should be a living wage and not a minimum wage.
Yeah, I actually know a fellow that's working 2 full-time jobs, minimum wage. And every time I see him, he looks, I feel bad for him because he's always, how somebody just looks exhausted all the time. And that's how he looks. And if he sits down, he falls asleep because he works 8 hours in one place and another 8 hours in the evening at another place. And I say to him, like, how do you manage this? Like, you're working, and it's not desk jobs, like it's on the go movement, lifting, pulling, pushing, all that sort of thing. And he says, like, I have no choice. I have to manage it. I've got bills to pay. I've got kids, and I have no choice.
Yeah, exactly.
And what kind of a world is it? Like, I mean, he's being responsible, and like kudos to him for doing that. But what kind of a world have we created where, in this particular case, the father is having to work 2 full-time jobs, 16 hours a day, 5 days a week, just to put, the bare minimums on, on the table, housing, shelter, food. Like, what about the enjoyment of his kids growing up and, being involved in their life? Like, how can he, 2 days a week, I guess it happens, but I mean, let's look at what we've created here. Like, it's just, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah, for sure. And, we're at a point in time where we need to start looking at changes. And, there's a lot of solutions out there, and we keep mentioning this again and again. But the best solution would be to take back our final decision-making authority. Well, take it back. We've never had it. So, it's, how can I say, it's a catch-22 because a lot of people are afraid to become final decision makers. But at least if we were, we'd be able to protect everybody. And, there's nothing that says that the country cannot create its own money and not give everybody a certain amount so that everybody can live and survive. And we shouldn't be paying for hydro or heating or any of those costs because, those are the natural resources. So it's, how can I say, it always comes back to the same thing, but not to bore our listeners too much, about that. One of the things that needs to be done is that Canadians need to wake up to what's going on. When you're looking at the government saying, okay, well, there was a mistake made there, and now we're going to clamp down on everybody and blaming the corporations, well, the employers, or the people blaming the foreign workers. We need to really sit down and structure something, but also understand that we need to look elsewhere. Like if they're fixing one area, where are they going to? Where are they trying to hide the actual problem? Well, right now with their immigration, hey, that settles that, right? If they're able to immigrate with it, they're only temporary foreign workers for 6 months, and then they're citizens. Hey, you know, it's going to be whitewashed under another aspect, and people won't even notice, and they won't even bother looking at the numbers of how many people are coming in. So there's quotas on that as well, and people don't know. So the bottom line is we need to be educated. So as long as we don't educate ourselves, we're never going to know exactly what's happening worldwide or in our own backyard.
Yeah, and on top of that, just we're in so much fear, and they just keep feeding us the fear. We need to start recognizing and confronting our own fear, because that's the only control they have over us. Is that they trigger our fear, traumatize. The Moncton thing was a trauma, and then they just play on that. And we, rather than questioning, critically thinking, opening up our minds to the possibility that, the government maybe is not doing all in our best interest, then it just continues on. The cycle just continues. We need to start setting our priorities a little bit different, I think. What's important. We have no choice.
Exactly.
If we're gonna survive as a species and living on Earth, we have no choice.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, it all boils down to the same thing: our own responsibility as human beings. So, until we take those responsibilities and educate ourselves and find out, exactly what's going on, what are, like, as far as how many people are jobless in Canada, how many have come in and taken those jobs, which are the jobs that were taken to begin with. Most of them will say, oh, it's the menial jobs. I don't call a bank teller a menial job, or a pipe fitter that'll make anywhere between $25 to $40 an hour and more in some instances, being a menial job. These people are replacing them on these, jobs that at least could pay their mortgage and, give them a better future than being paid $5 to $10 an hour.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Like here they're saying, like right now they're trying to send, where the correlation is between the foreign workers and, I've got this website here. It says International Experience Canada for citizens of the United Kingdom travel and work in Canada. So now the UK is advertising, come and work in Canada. Well, there's 5,350 places available in 2014. Exactly where are they? Here it says, make your working holiday dream a reality. International Experience Canada gives you the information you need to travel and work in Canada for up to 1 year. So, this here is some of the websites. And I'm showing the picture there on Livestream, and it's, in 2014, the quota will be separated in several rounds. Opening dates: first round, December 12th, 2013, at 1500 hours, London time. And now, like, the people will notice, these are all closed, but they filled 5,350 jobs for people to come work in Canada. Well, what about 5,350 Canadians? How about training them? And not how about, you don't need a special high school diploma to be able to be trained. Anybody can be trained if they're passionate about something that they want to do, and you offer it to them. They're going to learn that aspect of that job, and they're going to learn it well because that's their dream job, or they just love it, or so. Um, where are these jobs going to? This is why we need to be awake as to what's going on in our own backyard. So, 5,350 jobs, that's nothing to sneeze at. And when the Premier of Ontario says, oh, wow, we're going to have, well, not the Premier of Ontario, but Tim Hudak when he was running for Premier of Ontario, oh, we're going to create 1 million jobs. Well, Tim Hudak was a conservative. So where's he getting 1 million jobs in Ontario? And who's getting them? So, even though they're saying they're cracking down on the foreign workers, they're opening up a door somewhere else and hiding the problem.
Yeah. Now, from the perspective of solutions, I'm just going to throw this out there, and it's not always easy, but maybe what we need to start doing is start focusing on being entrepreneurs and creating our own jobs, businesses. The more we can become independent of the government, quote unquote, benefits, the less power and control they have.
Yeah, exactly. The more that we're autonomous, and also self, how do you call that? Dependent on them. But the thing is when you're looking at the corporations and everything they're coming up with now, the employers for the foreign workers will have to pay $1,000 from $275. They'll also have to report, how many people came and applied for jobs. Well, because now they're going to say, well, if you're on social services, or like in Ontario, if you're with Ontario Works, you have to prove that you went, in order to get social assistance or any kind of assistance, you'll have to prove that you went to so many employers, what day, what time, what was said, and then they'll want the employer to send in another confirmation and their assessment. And that, again, comes back down to total control. It's a control mechanism. And, you're no longer free to do anything without having to report and create a lot of paperwork. So now
don't you think it would make sense that once they get this kind of a program organized, set up for foreign workers, that it would just make sense to me that they would then move it over to Canadian workers who are on employment insurance or some kind of benefits, that then they would have to start reporting everything. And I mean, I don't know the full extent of how that happens now, but I know in the UK, they're extremely strict and will cut you off if you miss a phone call from them. Like, I can just see it. I think we need to, if we're going to sort of go down this road, I think it's only a matter of time before it happens for Canadian citizens, and I think the UK probably is an example that probably will be used, or to at least it can be used for us to have a heads up on what may be coming.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you're looking at this, if they're asking for they're saying that there's openings for 5,350 people from the UK to come to work in Canada, then that means the UK has 5,350 people that could go and work there. So they're trying to entice everybody to move, to go to the UK. And this is where their globalization, like even in the United States, the United Nations website, they state that they want to assimilate everybody worldwide, and everybody will have to go to other countries. But if I would just die if my son had to go to another country to work.
Yeah.
And what's he going to be working for? What kind of money is he going to be working for? And if you're looking at Canada, or even the United States, now the prisons are making a killing in free labor. So let's throw everybody in jail and get ourselves some free labor. And that's been going on for how long now, and we've never really addressed the issues.
No, we haven't. In fact, I just saw the headline of something this past week that in the States that there was some prisons, because there are private prisons there, they were going to be suing the government because they didn't have full capacity. So I don't know if that's the right word, but they weren't full. So whatever the agreement is between the private prison and the government is that, that's their profit, is keeping it full means the shareholders are happy.
Yeah, exactly. And
think about that.
Well, that's it. And this is what happens with privatization. Especially of jails, it's pathetic how many jails are opening up, and how many people are in there that should not even be in there, or people that are picked on. There's a huge racism issue in regards to the Indigenous peoples being wrongfully accused or thrown in, or they have this GLADU for the Indigenous peoples, but in order to get a GLADU court, you have to admit guilt. And a lot of them are admitting guilt without even being guilty, because they just want to get this out, out of their way and just move on with their lives. So they'll go and do some time. And then at the same time, the government gets free labor. Ha, ha, ha,
Yeah. And you just made me think of something. Last 2 summers ago, we were on vacation, and my husband got a ticket. And so it turned out he had to come back, so I had to pay it before we left. So I went to wherever it was, the courthouse or wherever you pay it, and I said, I'd like to pay this for my husband. And she said, okay, so you're admitting guilt. And I said, oh no, I never did it. It's not mine. I'm just paying it for him. Well, I can't take the money unless you admit guilt. I'm like, what? I said, but it's not my ticket. And I'm not going to say that he's guilty, because that's not my place to say that. And I had this conversation, and you're absolutely right we just want to get this over with. We were leaving the next day. It was an 18-hour trip. So I ended up saying, whatever, just take the money, because at that time I didn't know all of the stuff that I know now. So I just wanted to pay it and get rid of it. But that's, within the system, I just wanted to throw that out there since you brought it up. You have to plead guilty to pay their fines, because everything's by consent.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's a movie that I watched about this last year, and it was kind of ironic, because it was the first time I stumbled on the movie. Then the same week, I came across the foreign workers and what they had done in the Western provinces. So it was like, wow. I totally understood it, because I had seen that movie. And this was based on a true story in the United States, where the district attorney, the attorney general, was actually, it was a year where re-election year, and he was paying off, drug addicts and whatnot to lie about these people. And then they go in and raid all of these people who were basically all innocent, and just in order to get rid of the charges, or the threat of losing their children forever because of these charges, they'd fold and admit guilt, and when they weren't even guilty. It's so sad that we're at a place like this. But
is that not like extortion?
It is extortion. The government is the biggest mafia that there is. And all of those, their kind of consorts, like with the Vatican, and
Yeah.
So, but I guess we're going to be going to a commercial.
Yeah, when we come back, we'll continue this discussion and talk a little bit about the Moncton. And if anybody's got anything they want to talk about in the chat room, just type us up questions and we'll be right back.
Okay, thank you. There we go. We're doing a little bit better with this speech. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio.
Most guys freeze. That's your cerebral cortex looking for an answer it doesn't have.
See? Even your brain knows you're screwed.
Guys feeling with adrenaline right now, whether you know it or not. Your heart's beating fast. It's getting a little harder to breathe. The neurobiological system is telling you to run, but your knees are too weak to move.
Fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination, causing us to fear things that do not at present and may not ever exist. That is near insanity. Do not misunderstand me. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice. We are all telling ourselves a story.
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. 100% listener-supported radio. Reporting to danger. Unafraid. Right here, where information never sleeps. Revolution Radio!
Listening to Journeys with JP Tuesdays on Revolution Radio at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, with a variety of guests, each giving a unique perspective on their journey through to the now. Journeys offers you, the listener, a chance to share that perspective. Join me, JP, on Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on Revolution Radio, simulcast with Wolf Spirit Radio.
Be me, Wild Bill Samso, your host of the Samso Report. Join me for Wild Bill's Headline Roundup every Saturday night, right here on Revolution Radio.
Hey, Truther Junkies, it's me, Angela Black, and I'm back. Join me every weekday except for Wednesdays from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern, Studio B on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com for my news show, At This Moment 2014. See you there.
Who are we? Where do we come from? Are there other humans in our Milky Way galaxy? What is our real history? What happens after we die? And what created our universe? What is the purpose of our lives? What evolutionary steps do human societies go through? Who built the ancient monolithic site found all over the Earth? How do the extraterrestrials travel from star to star system with almost no time passing? Ohio Exopolitics is on at 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on Revolution Radio. Join Mark Snyder as he interviews a myriad of excellent guests each Saturday night on Revolution Radio.
FreedomSlips.com. What do you think it is? I don't know.
Kieran and Dr. J every Sunday from 10 p.m. Eastern to midnight for Researchers on a Mission Radio. We will be interviewing guests in ufology, experts on the paranormal, and stories from you, the listener. Every Sunday, 10 p.m. in Studio B. Join us for some amazing conversations and edge-of-your-seat true thrillers.
Right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Studio B, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, Sunday nights. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps. Revolution Radio. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hi, and welcome back to Solutions Network with Gail Marie and Nicole. Earlier in the chat room, Nicole, Tangi asked the question, what do you think Obama's intent is with the importing of illegal immigrants? Do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, well, what I did is I went down and I did a Google search on it real quick, and I posted it while the commercial was playing, and it says, breaking Obama's plot to import illegal alien children uncovered. And this was on the Tea Party website. I usually don't like to go on the Tea Party website, but this is the one that came up. And it says, the Tea Party research team has discovered shocking documents which incriminate and expose Obama's plot to use illegal alien children as political pawns as a way to swamp the U.S. immigration system and set the stage for amnesty. As far back as 2013, the Obama regime appears to have been plotting the overthrow of the U.S. immigration system. Several concerned citizens have stepped forward with documents that may not only appear to be accurate, but are disconcerting as well. Transporting of children for political purposes is unconscionable and must be stopped. The trust of the Obama regime in Washington has hit a new low, not only in the minds of the American people, but in the lives of child victims who are suffering at the hands of Obama. This was a quote by Steve Eckler of the Tea Party. So the article goes on to say, under the guise of escort services, government agencies appear to be moving blocks of human cargo from foreign countries into the U.S. This infusion of illegal aliens will no doubt apply extreme and unnecessary pressure on entire immigration systems until the whole process collapses. However, because of recent discoveries, amnesty is getting further from reach, and a spotlight is now focused on the Obama regime and their unconscionable actions against the most helpless members of the human race, children. Many of these child victims have been forcibly separated from their parents for the greater good. The Tea Party research team is continuing to investigate these newly discovered documents and statements. More information will be forthcoming. The following documents showcase the date, time, and intent of Obama's plot, and this is procurement type, request for information, sources sought. The title is Escort Services for Unaccompanied Alien Children, classification code V, transportation/travel relocation. And it says, this is an introduction, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, a component of the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, has a continuing and mission-critical responsibility for accepting custody of unoccupied alien children from the U.S. Border Patrol and other federal agencies and transporting these juveniles to Office of Refugee Resettlement, ORR, shelters located through the continental United States. Now, what is that? Those are the FEMA camps, guaranteed. So here it says, ICE is seeking the services of a responsible vendor that shares the philosophy of treating all UAC, unaccompanied alien children, with dignity and respect while adhering to standard operating procedures and policies that allow for an effective, efficient, and incident-free transport. The contractor shall provide unarmed escort staff, including management, supervision, manpower, training, certifications, licenses, drug testing, equipment, and supplies necessary to provide on-demand escort services for non-criminal/non-delinquent unoccupied alien children ages infant to 17 years of age. And then it has 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Transport will be required for either category of UAC or individual juveniles, to include both male and female juveniles. There will be approximately 65,000 UAC in total. Imagine that. 65,000 kids from, infants to the age of 17 years old. Now it says 25% local ground transport, 25% via ICE charter, and 50% via commercial air. Escort services include, but are not limited to, assisting with transferring physical custody of UAC from DHS to Health and Human Services, HHS, care via ground or air methods of transportation. Property inventory, providing juveniles with meals, drafting reports, generating transport documents, maintaining/stocking daily supplies, providing and issuing clothing as needed, coordinating with DHS and HSS staff, travel coordination, limited stationary guard services to accommodate for trip disruptions due to inclement weather, faulty equipment, and other exigent, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, circumstances. In emergency situations, the contractor shall be called on to provide temporary shelter locations such as trailers with shower facilities for juveniles who are pending placement with HHS. When bed space is unavailable nationwide for extended periods of time, the contractor shall provide temporary guard services and other support as necessary during these emergencies. In addition, the contractor shall have personnel who are able to communicate with juveniles in their own designated languages. While this may not require each employee to be fluent in all of the encountered languages, personnel should have access to and knowledge of translation services. Okay, and then it says B, ICE standards and special requirements. The contractor is required to perform in accordance with the ICE performance-based national detention standards. All ICE policies related to the transportation of juveniles. It says see the ICE Family Residential Standards, http ice.gov. So if we go to ice.gov, we should be able to get all the information. So it says detention standards / family residential, as well as the floors settlement agreement. The Trafficking Victims Protection Reauthorization Act of 2008 and the Homeland Security Act of 2002. In cases where other standards conflict with DHS, ICE policy and standards, DHS/ICE policy and standards will prevail. ICE inspectors will conduct periodic inspections to ensure compliance of the aforementioned standards. Personnel shall have the knowledge and experience to transport individual children with special needs. Oftentimes, children with special needs may require a transportation method that is time-saving and direct, i.e., example, by commercial airline. Contractors shall also provide for accompanying Medicare. Additionally, due to exigent circumstances, the contractor shall be required to transport juveniles via ground to HUB airports and other staging areas that are not located within the area of initial apprehension. So to me, it almost sounds like they're going to jail the parents and take over the kids.
But if they're immigrants, that means they're not really from this country. So is it kids from other countries whose parents they killed?
Who knows? See, I hadn't seen this, and I'm glad that Tanji brought this up because, it all falls again into the temporary foreign workers programs, what they're trying to do, and it's again the assimilation under world governance and globalization, and total assimilation of the Earth's population. So here it almost says like they're figuring 65,000 kids without parents. That's a huge number.
What parents would give up their children?
None.
I mean, I know there is some countries where, the children are sold into various professions because they're so poor. But, I mean, to actually allow their children to be escorted by, these contractors to a foreign country, newborn to teen, like that is just crazy.
Well, you also have to ask yourself, what are they going to do with the illegals in the United States? Or are they going to take the illegals from Canada and bring them to the United States and put them there? Because obviously we don't have those facilities for them. But it really makes you want to say, like, what is going on here?
Well, yeah, and are we, Canadians, would we be considered illegals to go into there, wherever they're bringing them? Well, I mean, they can come on and arrest people, right?
Yeah, like, definitely. I don't see how they could do it any other way. Like, I mean, we would be illegal immigrants. Like, even though they've already done the combining of Canada, the United States, and Mexico under their free trade agreements, we're still considered aliens in the United States.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not about promoting fear or anything, but just awareness, connecting the dots. Once the dots, just keep asking questions, dig in and think beyond what the obvious is. Because once you start connecting, they just keep connecting and connecting and connecting. Because this is a huge spider's web that they're creating.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm going down this write-up for their procedures, and it's like, wow. Here it says, the contractor, the contractor shall follow a fully developed training curriculum, and transporting staff shall have the highest level of competency possible. Areas of training shall include, but are not limited to, the following: airport rules and regulations for travelers, crisis intervention, child development, working with and transporting youth with special needs, transporting youth with behavioral problems, CPR and first aid training, non-secured UAC policy and procedures, and the implementation of contingency plans in the event of a crisis during transport, which include de-escalation techniques. Background investigations and sustainability screenings will be conducted on all contract employees by the Office of Professional Responsibility and Personal Security Unit, which is what they call OPR-OSU. Now, the contractor shall agree to each employee working on this contract will successfully pass the DHS Employment Eligibility E-Verify program operated by U6 to establish work authorization and U.S. citizenship. So E-Verify, that means it's going to be an online course and verification. So it continues to say employees must reside in the United States. The government indicates awarding a 5-year fixed price, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contract vehicle consisting of a 1-year base period and 4 option years. The Service Contract Act is applicable to this acquisition. All required clauses, provisions will be included in the solicitation and resulting contractual instrument. The anticipated release date for the solicitation is March 3rd, 2014. The solicitation closing date will be 30 days after release of the Request for Proposal, RFP. Projected set aside, all business sizes are welcome to participate. However, ICE is trying to determine small business interests, particularly hub zone companies. Now, all information received in response into this notice will be used to determine the appropriateness of any small business set aside for this requirement. So, that to me sounds like everybody's going to jump on this. Oh my God, they're going to be making money. How much money are they going to be taking from taxpayers to pay these people to do this work with these children? I mean, that's a heck of a lot of 65,000. That's a big number.
Yeah. And we need to shift, our priorities. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Well, if you look at Agenda 21, when I was first introduced to Agenda 21, they did say that, and it makes sense that, the schools will tell the kids, to rat on their parents and you let us know. And then they want the kids to trust the government more than their parents. And the whole thing, and if you look at, the history of Atlantis, which is something I like to visit once in a while, in there, after a child reached the age of 2 years, apparently they were removed from their parents and all institutionalized under the government programs. And this pretty much to me sounds like this. Where are they going to get those 65,000 kids? Are they already in the U.S.? Are they taking them out of Mexico and Canada, bringing them to U.S.? Are they taking them from abroad where they think that, they're going to go to war and then collect all these children and put them into FEMA camps?
Well, my question is, they're very detailed in what you've read. Did they create that document based on the experiences that Canada's already been through with the residential schools? Because that's what it reminds me of. And I'm not even that, I don't know the intricate details of the whole residential school skeleton in Canada's closet, but that's kind of the first thing that came to my mind.
Right, because to me, it's almost like they're gonna take the illegal immigrants that they want to get their hands on. They're gonna keep the ones they want to keep and get rid of the ones they want to get rid of with illegal immigrants in the United States. And I'm just assuming here, but let's say the whole idea is to separate the family and to break apart the family construct. So this to me is a carbon copy of how to do this, because it keeps going on and on, Gail. You should see this document. I mean, I'm so grateful that, one of the listeners mentioned this, because I hadn't seen this at all. And it just, again, shows me that we're on the right track as far as exposing what these governments are doing in cahoots with, the globalization, the United Nations, and, on how to suppress people. So, there's a catch-22 there. Are they going to be sending the parents in other countries to work? What are they going to do here? So only time will tell. But according to this document, it was a done deal March 3rd, 2014.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting is they don't come right out and, there's no sort of talk about children, are better off without their families, without their parents, that sort of thing, right? Because that would be way too obvious. And people would not be accepting of that. So it's just sort of as I see it, all these plans are being made to separate the families. And as sort of another push, it's the way the whole economic system is designed, where people are in debt because we've been so to value the wrong things that the whole idea of being in debt is very stressful to people. And when people are, overstressed, who gets the brunt of that?
Yeah, well, if you're looking at this, okay, I got to keep reading here. I'm seeing this. And here it says, number D, place of performance, service area throughout the continental United States. The area or areas or regions, service may occur either with a phased approach over a period of several months to a full year. Alternatively, the contractor shall perform the entire transportation function upon full funding. For example, the following two circumstances may occur. The contractor could initially provide transportation services only in the southwest region of the United States. Hang on, southwest of the U.S. Okay, for those juveniles who are apprehended in the state of Texas. Or the contractor may be required to provide transportation services for all juveniles who are in DHS custody throughout the continental U.S. So to me, that says a lot. That says they're going after the illegal aliens, and they're going to take away all of their kids. This is what I'm seeing, and it's like, this is, the more we're advancing in this is the rise of the Fourth Reich. If you look at what Hitler did, and Hitler did take the residential school example from what happened in Canada and in the United States with the nations and how to get rid of them. So it's really frustrating to see all this developing, and people aren't realizing what's happening. Because if you look at Obama, okay, shortly after he was elected, his whole promotion, yes, we can, and then he came out with a plan saying that he wanted to launch, to make good citizens. We're going to force primary school children and junior high and high school students to put in, between 10 hours a month to 40 hours a month of how do you call that?
Volunteer?
Yeah, volunteer work, but it would be mandatory. That's no longer volunteer work when it's mandatory.
Exactly.
And I was appalled when I read this, and I went, "What the heck are they thinking? What the hell is he thinking?" And everybody's going, "Yeah, hooray, hooray, Obama! Let's all vote him in." And he's going to make, get free labor to teach these kids how to clean their communities. Okay, I have no problems with, volunteering your family and going to clean out the neighborhood and everything like that. But once you make it mandatory, that is a dictatorship.
Well, they have that in high school here in Ontario.
Yes, well, this is when I first found out about it. I couldn't believe, I'm thinking, okay, Obama's going to be bringing the New World Order. And then all along, what do we see? It's coming in through Canada because the people allowed it. 2 years, I was sitting here last summer with, a friend of ours, Ron, and his grandson couldn't get his high school diploma because he had to put in 40 hours of volunteer work.
Yeah.
In order to get his diploma. That's not asking them to volunteer. There's nothing good in there, as far as I'm concerned, when you make it an obligation. Give them an extra credit, but don't say, hey, this kid was amazing. His marks were really high. Not to the point where he need an extra credit and have to do it. In order to get his diploma. He had earned his diploma. He worked hard. He gave it his all, and then he's penalized by, oh, you can't get your diploma because you didn't do your 40 hours of volunteer work. And then when you talk to people who say, oh, that's good for them and it teaches them something. No, all this is teaching them is dictatorship and put up and shut up. And I couldn't believe that this had been going on in Ontario for the last, it's going to be last 10 to 12 years now?
Yeah, at least 5, I think. I'm not even, I don't know, sort of before my kids got there.
Yeah, but see, this is it. Like, my son is 27 now, and when he was done not university, but college, I didn't notice any of those things, especially, and it wasn't happening in Quebec, but I was appalled to see that it was happening in Ontario, because I put in a post on Facebook on that, and I went, oh my God, like, when did this all start? And one guy came back, he says, well, my little brother had to, and he says, it's been going on 10 years now, and that was last year or the summer before, I think. It had to have been last summer.
And with that program, and I don't know if this is just individual school or not, but I'm also aware of people that did volunteer, did some hours, and it wasn't accepted for credit towards their 40 hours.
Yeah, well, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
But this is totally ridiculous. Like, right now, I can't even begin to answer Tangi's question because I'm just, it's one thing to know about it and to see it in the papers and to listen to Obama when he first said it 4 years ago. But to actually see it in print and at the, an assumption of 65,000 kids, wow. Now these kids are all going to be raised in foster homes eventually or in FEMA camps. Like, hello.
And we know we haven't even ever talked about the issues with fostering and the whole child services.
Yeah, well, I bet you that a lot of people in the U.S. are going, oh, yay, now, I'm going to be able to support myself by taking in these kids. And what they're not realizing is they're adding to the problem. They're not part of the solution, definitely.
Well, and that's how they create, that's how they get away with doing the things that they do. Because they know people, they know how to trigger the response that they want in people. Because all of we just talked about this not long ago, all of these programs can sound so beneficial. Like, oh, this is great, the whole being responsible, having the kids be responsible doing volunteer hours. On the surface, yeah, you can see that. But nobody looks deeper than the surface, which is, they count on that. That's how they've been so successful so far, because we stay on the surface, just skimming the top, and we don't question, we don't ask questions, we don't go deeper. We still, it's amazing the trust, even people that, recognize that the government is doing things that they are not acceptable. They still have that trust for them. And I know it's all programming, but it's amazing. I don't even know, I'm speechless when it comes to it.
Well, yeah. Well, it's easy to be speechless because it goes beyond our own comprehension, because we're not that type of people. We would never expect to see something like this. We can't even comprehend how can a human being do these atrocities to another human being. And this is where we get caught up, because, people say, oh, no, that can't be happening. Well, hey, we're seeing here in black and white, even though it comes from the Tea Party, what we were reading doesn't come from the Tea Party. It comes from the U.S. government. So, everything that we read there, the last part, was from them. So it's like, wow.
Yeah. And people are, like I said last week, I'm noticing a significant change in, for example, Naomi Wolf and what she's writing and printing about. And, even and maybe this is a good time to get into the whole Moncton shooting again. Just recently, let me see if I can find the exact date. Mark Taliano had an article in the Huffington Post about, the headline was, "We need to ask tough questions about Moncton." So people are starting to sort of recognize things, and hopefully it'll be like a snowball, and have a snowball effect where, just more people are able to understand what's going on, and we can, start to empower ourselves to make changes, to make shifts, to take back our final decision-making authority. And we can get these people that have access to large numbers, like Naomi Wolf has a huge network. Mark Taliano, he's writing for the Huffington Post and being published, so he's got a network. If we can get these people now are starting to recognize and put the dots together, when we can start getting them to share more and more, then they're going to be reaching those people that, consider independent news to be conspiracy, right? Because it's no longer they're sharing the same things.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I just put Mark Taliano's Huffington Post. Okay, this is the Huff Post Politics Canada, June 22nd, 2014. And here's Mark Taliano, writer, activist, retired teacher. And he says, we need to ask tough questions about Moncton, as you've said. And so I'll read it for the people here. Stephen Harper's very ascent to the Prime Minister's office was enabled by a corporate media strategy of censorship through omission. Corporate media conveniently suppressed Harper's previous affiliation with the fascistic Northern Foundation and the National Citizens Coalition, an extreme right-wing lobby group. The convenient suppression of his past political associations, enabled by media baron Conrad Black, who was also a member of the Northern Foundation, allowed Harper to present himself as a moderate conservative and to emerge victoriously as Prime Minister of Canada in 2006. Corporate media monopolies already welded to transnational corporate policies are now even more powerful. Information streams can be further exploited with the passage of the National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA, in the U.S. Now, according to Suzanne Posel in How the NDAA Allows U.S. Government to Use Propaganda Against Americans, an amendment in the NDAA empowers the State Department and Pentagon to utilize all forms of media against the American public for the sake of coercing U.S. citizens to believe whatever versions of the truth the U.S. government wants them to believe. Transnational media monopolies also enable government legislation to more easily pass beneath the radar. The Integrated Cross-Border Law Enforcement Operations Act is one such piece of legislation. This legislation essentially allows U.S. police to enter Canada with equal empowerment to enforce acts of Parliament as the RCMP. The Act also allows intelligence sharing and it exempts U.S. police from Canadian laws. This seemingly innocuous law, which is currently restricted to the water-based operations, was passed under the radar. It's already been, it passed 2 years ago, actually. Now, in omnibus legislation, and will likely expand under the radar for land-based operations. Centralized transnational control of media messaging for the purposes of propaganda, coupled with stealth legislation that further integrates Canada and the U.S., raise red flags that need to be addressed. In the context of false flag events and the war on terror, American author and journalist Naomi Wolf offers this advice on her Facebook page. So she says, we must vet any news story that A. heightens fear and encourages populations to submit unquestioningly to authority, and B. rationalize boots on the ground Nigeria schoolgirls, because they may all be completely correct, but some, like the weapons of mass destruction story that you recall was on the front page of the New York Times, may be spun, hyped, or distorted by what are now private companies confirmed in multiple FOIA's requests, Freedom of Information requests, whose goals are to heighten fears in population, to boost spending on the terror threat, or to suppress dissent, or to create chaos in a geopolitical area that has value for private corporations. In brackets, they have Ukraine, Nigeria, Venezuela. We need to face that it is a new time. We need to face that it is a new time we are in which private sectors have contracts to spin, hype, distort, and affect the news, and trusted brands such as CNN and CBC often do not bother or don't have resources to check or question news streams generation by these private entities. This then leads to the tragedy in Moncton, Canada, where 3 Mounties were slain and 2 wounded on June 4, 2014. This incident meets Wolf's two criterion that would trigger vetting. First, the tragedy does heighten fears that would encourage population to submit unquestioningly to authority for their perceived safety. Second, this tragedy could trigger boots on the ground, or in this case, further police militarization. Fear of a reoccurrence of a similar incident could make a population more amenable to police state security, including the loss of freedoms in exchange for perceived protections. Police state measures would likely include increased surveillance, normalization of lockdowns, plus more and better police armaments, a ramping up of the police industrial complex. The government would have more control, the citizens less, and profits would roll in for certain industries. If, for example, a criminal organization, foreign or domestic, wanted the government to have more control over population and more power to contain protests against fracking companies, then a fearful population would be to its benefit. If the tragedy was enabled or manufactured to criminally advance such ulterior agendas, then the Moncton tragedy is a false flag, and justice has, so far, been thwarted. If, on the other hand, the tragedy is exploited rather than manufactured, to advance an ulterior agenda, then justice may be compromised. So far, the corporate media, with its singular narrative of the incident, is exploiting the tragedy through its presentation of a trial by media narrative. Hopefully, justice will be served and appropriate measures will be taken to limit the likelihood of such a tragedy reoccurring. Respect for the victims, however, demands that the tough questions be asked. So that is the end of the Mark's reporting there. But it's all tied in together with the foreign workers program. All of this is all tied together, all heading to more policing. A world police, like they're asking, that they're recruiting now under the UN. So, people really, really need to wake up.
Yeah. And just one comment about his last comment there, respect for the victims, however, demands that the tough questions be asked. So much of that people don't ask because they think they're respecting the victims. It's interesting because, to go and talk about this sort of on the very mainstream pages, people respond with, you have no respect for the victims.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not connecting the dots yet. And it's just,
well, they don't want us to ask questions. So, of course...
I know. It's just, as much as I don't want to say it, they're geniuses in their manipulation.
Well, the reason why they're geniuses, if you look at the Canadian Council of Chief Executives, the CCCE, they are the same as the United States Foreign Relations, okay?
Okay.
So the CCCE and the CFR are identical. They are our version of the CFR. And they're the ones controlling the world right now. Like, everybody's blaming the bankers. It's not just the bankers, okay? It's the corporate people who have actually taken over the United Nations for a very long time. It was actually created to control everybody. And now it's being used against the citizens. So, and manipulated for world governance. And, enticing people and say, oh, you're going to become a world citizen. And, so all of these things are totally, totally interconnected. And when you're looking at the big picture, then you can connect the dots. And when you've got people like Naomi Wolf, like I've been, I used to watch Naomi a lot, not 5, but maybe 6 years ago. And, she was coming out, like, she really did not like what George Bush Jr. was doing. She was a real advocate there for the people and trying to wake up the masses. And then, then we get snowballed with Obama, and then he comes in and does all these things. And people are so blinded by the fact, they're blinded by his looks. They see a black man. But the thing is, do we really know the truth? Will we ever know the truth? And you're looking at these medias and what they're saying, like, for the shooting in Moncton, what can we believe? We don't even know what to believe anymore, because all this propaganda that, they've paid people to do. I remember Bush in 2008 paying people to go on Facebook and create propaganda. And this was in the New York Times.
Yeah. Well, and it happens in Canada as well.
Oh, absolutely. It happens everywhere. Everywhere. And you can see it plain as day.
Now, Nicole, you just made me think of something. Have you seen the Jehovah's Witness website? Actually has a flyer that they've been giving, well, not the website, but the Jehovah Witnesses. It's on their website, but somebody actually in my town was telling me about it. They have a flyer that they're giving out, and on it says, "A world government. Why do we need one? Is it possible? Who is qualified to rule? Here are the answers at this free public event. This is your invitation."
Yeah, I'd heard about that, okay? And it's like a lot of people are, saying, oh, yes, we need to have world government. This way we'd have no more wars. Well, that's exactly what the UN said. People will be begging for world government. But the thing is, what I was trying to get with the CCCE and the CFR is that they hire, and the government, these corporations hire multitudes of scholars to identify things and give us different scenarios on how they can manipulate the system, or like manipulate us and brainwashing us. And we've got the proof of that. And then they'll give this to the government for the government to, let's do a research on this and get all, 20 scholars and get them to write a book on it. Then we'll read it and then we'll do our assessment. And this is how all of this has come about, because they take us like lab rats, and then all of these scholars, they all have their little thing to do, and it's like, okay, well, how can we, we need to get this done. How can we get it done? So they'll come up with a multitude of scenarios, and okay, well, if we do this, they're going to do that. We're being examined like lab rats. And this is how they were able to get so far, the way they are now. So now you've got Jehovah Witnesses say, oh, yeah, world government, wouldn't that be great? And who can handle it? And, I mean, these people are totally off their rockers to begin with. And if they're okay with some stranger across the ocean dictating how they live, they have no clue what the hell they're saying. They have no clue what the hell they're saying. So they're promoting all of this crap and wanting people to say, yes, world government, and yes, world citizen, and, let's go get a card like Obama. I'm a world citizen, and I can go anywhere I want in the world. Well, guess what? You're going to be living in a third world country. You're going to be starving if you don't start paying attention and taking care of your own country first. And, governing your own country yourself, which means, 33 million Canadians and 1.2 million Indigenous peoples, almost 35 million people here, need to get their act together. They need to start looking at how we're going to govern Canada together and make it fair for everybody, and do a lot of restitution and give these, the nations the respect they deserve. And so that we don't go into a globalized economy, or, where they're going to sink us with them. We can do our own economy here. We don't need the international markets. The only one who need the international markets are the corporations. We can print all the money we want for ourselves and our people. Nobody ever has to pay taxes. Nobody ever has to pay electricity. Nobody should be paying for gas and oil. And first of all, we shouldn't even be extracting these things. There's technology out there that the governments are preventing us from using, and because we don't have, we're slacking off in our responsibility to this earth, to our country, to our families, to our children. we're losing the ball here. So it's
Well,
time
and I
that we
think
pick
it's
it up.
important to remember, and we alluded to it a little bit earlier, that what these things, all these programs that they're doing, all of the areas that you're wanting to focus on, you know, a job work program, it's feeding that whole idea that we must work. We must work. You know, the whole slave mentality.
Yeah.
And I think we need to, I mean, maybe there is a different way. Just open up to the possibility there's a different way, that life wasn't meant to be as challenging as it's become. And because we need to start focusing outside of what we're currently living, because as long as we keep focusing what we're currently living, it's not going to change.
No,
because we're feeding it.
Exactly. And they have to keep us in a state of despair because of the vibration of the planet and the vibration of the people. So if you're looking at another aspect, a more spiritual aspect to this, you see that they physically have to keep us depressed or struggling or not truly living or living our passions, or, you know, working into something we're very passionate about. Because if everybody was suddenly happy, what would you imagine would happen? Everybody would find out that we don't need religions because your holy grail is within. You'd be able to communicate with, you know, at higher levels of what we are, because we do have our, you know, our energies and consciousness, how can I say, right now under siege by belief systems that are there, that they are set up to stop people from actually living life the way they're supposed to. They have to keep us in chaos. So the only way that we're going to know anything new is to change what's going on now, and we hold all that power. And once we hold all that power and we get our life back and we start being happy, everybody's going to discover their inner holy grail. It's within, and they need to make sure that you don't know about it.
Yeah, exactly, because that's the manipulation comes from us continuing to focus on what we don't have within the system that they've created. And it's designed for us to not have it. So we definitely need to start considering being open to the possibility that maybe life was not meant to be like this. And you know what? I don't think that's such a big stretch either. I know for myself, you know, it just one day it just kind of occurred to me. I mean, over my lifetime, I guess it had, but in one particular day, it was just kind of like, no, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense that this is how life is supposed to be. And it was from that moment on that I sort of started looking at things differently and looking outside the box. And it's just been a whirlwind of learning from that. But it's our responsibility, and it's part of the solution that you have full control over as a man or a woman, is to start looking outside the box, the cage, whatever you want to call it. It's more like a cage, really. The door is open. We just need to walk through the door.
Yeah.
And not into another cage, so.
No, absolutely. So, you know, I mean, the worst thing that could happen to us by taking back our power is that we're going to be happy.
Wow.
You know, like, we're not going to be without growing pains, but imagine how much happier everybody would be. And then we could truly help everybody worldwide. The system they've created, the political system they created, and the money system they created, you know, we don't need that. We can all share. We can all create something a lot better, but absolutely not what the UN is trying to build now, because that's a trap. But we need to do it for the people, by the people, each country on their own, to fix their backyards, and then we can expand to everybody everywhere in the world, and then it won't be so bad. You know, like, we will be able to go and do things elsewhere, but we're not going to be restricted by money and a false system, and a false system of false belief systems, because once we empower ourselves, we will discover our holy grail, and then, man, do we become powerful. And that's what they do not want. If we are able to vibrate in a happier atmosphere, happier living environment, um, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, yeah. And I just want to throw out there, you were talking about creation, and if you author something, then you're the authority for it. So I just want people to think about that, because they've created this system. They are the authors for the laws and this whole system, which makes them the authority. And of course, you know my thoughts on authority. So why not? Why can't we be the authors and be the authority?
Yeah, absolutely. It's high time that we are. So I know that our time is almost up, and it's been a very exciting week. And I thank you, Tanji, for asking that question a while ago, so that I could go and check that up, because I'm not always up to speed. And especially this month, I was trying to get the rest of June off, so that I can really focus on my home environment and my little girls who got spayed on Monday. Yeah, hallelujah. I'm not going to be in a panic now. No more heat problems where I'm going to be afraid that one's going to get knocked up again. The doors can be open. I'm not going to be so stressed about people coming in and out, not shutting the doors. So, it's been a very. I finally planted my garden. Yes, not much,
Right?
but at least it's something. And I've got my flowers around my gazebos, and things are picking up. But um, now, like, once we get around to July, I'm hoping that we're going to be full force into everything. We've got to start promoting the People's Social Forum in Ottawa, August 21st to 24th, where Indigenous peoples, Quebecers, and Canadian citizens will get together and compare notes. And we're going to be doing a workshop seminar, under IAQs and all this. So,
Awesome.
yeah, so, hopefully I'll be able to really get on the IAQ's website, and that's I-accuse, with one C, .com, and you can kind of follow us there, and our radio show as well. So,
yeah. I'd also like to throw out, we extended an invitation if anybody knew any veterans that would like to, chat, come on the show and chat off the show. Because I think that, again, is it's time to start having the conversation. It's time to start coming together.
Yeah, absolutely, because more of these things. When you're looking at the U.S. government basically imprisoning 65,000 kids in the U.S., and that's just the beginning. It's time for us to make a move here, because we can't let, whether these people are, I have nothing against foreign workers themselves. I have nothing against illegal aliens. Everybody should be able to live and enjoy their life and have the right to work and to support themselves and to be happy. But the reasons why I'm so against Canadians losing their jobs to foreign workers, or United States, or anybody there in each country. It's like, in Mexico, these people, the jobs belong to them. They don't belong to a Canadian citizen going over there. And just to come back, there's another thing that I want to mention to finish off with what the UK was doing with this. Okay, the temporary work visa for work holidays in Canada, which is something that they're calling it now, work holidays, go anywhere in the world. Like these 5,535 people. So I guess we're not going to be able to really finish it off, but it says that the British citizens will no longer be required to demonstrate habitual residency. Example, that they have lived continuously in the UK. So anybody can go to the UK, be there a week, and then claim to be a UK citizen, and then come over here, or just be transferred from there, basically.
Okay, well, thanks, Nicole. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next Sunday for Solutions Network with Gail, Marie, and Nicole.
Okay, have a great week, everyone.